Hello, this is Todd Luck, and in recent months I stumbled upon some Sectaur comics from Marvel back in the 80s, and there was a good deal on them, and so I ended up getting that series. And then shortly after that, I saw a sale on Power Lords comics from DC. This was another 80s toy line that had a miniseries, so I picked that one up too. And this got me thinking about 80s cartoons, so I watched some of those on YouTube. And so while I was watching stuff like Sectaurs and Visionaries, YouTube recommended for me the Robo pilot that aired back in the 80s. And so I'd seen that as a child, and so I rewatched it again. And it led me to do some searches online about Robo, and then I stumbled upon this. Power Lords, Robo, and Sectaurs are going to be in a comic along with The Great Garloo and Biker Mice from Mars that is going to come out in March. This is Nacelleverse number 0, and again, this is coming out in March. You can pre-order it right now. It's going to be $5.99 for 48 pages, and it's going to feature stories with all of those properties. And this is the main cover. I'm going to show you the variant covers while I'm talking about it. And so the Nacelle Company is a company that puts out TV shows and merchandise. They did The Toys That Made Us on Netflix. And so they decided to get into the toy biz by acquiring lesser known properties that they're making new figures of and that they're developing for animation and comic books. And so we do live in the era of the MCU, so they are pitching this as a connected universe. And so Nacelleverse 0 will involve stories that will be connected by a creature called the Great Garloo who has lost his home planet, and so he's going to go looking for a new home, and it'll have him meet all of these different characters. And this will lead into miniseries with the individual properties. So let's go over what those properties are. So I'd actually never heard of the Great Garloo before this. It is a toy from the 1960s. It was this remote-controlled monster. It's like a robot, but it looks like a monster that was remote-controlled. And so they've actually made a new figure of it. This is actually only 3 inches tall and $15.99. Definitely one of Nacelle's more affordable offerings. And so Sectaurs are these insectoid people who live on the planet of Symbion, and it's kind of a bugs and swords sort of story. You have the Shining Realm led by Prince Dargon versus the Dark Domain led by General Spydrax. And they have giant bugs as pets, but also even bigger bugs that they ride as steeds. And the bugs that came with them had different gimmicks, but the most memorable one was that the steeds were actually hand puppets, and the kids would just put their hands in the puppet and they would control the legs with their fingers. In recent years, Zika Toys tried to bring it back as a 3 3/4 inch action figure line, which unfortunately I didn't know about at the time. I would have loved to have gotten those. That's been discontinued, and now Nacelle has put out its first 2 figures, which are on the 6-inch scale and are much closer to the size of the original figures, and you can get those right now. Power Lords was a space opera starring this guy named Adam Power, who could transform into Lord Power and use his powers to fight evil aliens who were very unique looking. Before I got the comic, my only familiarity with Power Lords was this one ad showing the transformation of the Adam Power figure into Lord Power. For people who were familiar with the line, it was known for its unique visual styles and its very unusual gimmicks and aliens and things like that. And Four Horsemen did try to bring it back with a new line of figures in recent years, but unfortunately that got discontinued, and now Nacelle will be putting out new figures. Biker Mice from Mars. I think the name says it all. They are humanoid mice from Mars who ride motorcycles. Their people get wiped out by evil aliens, and they end up on Earth where they have to fight those aliens. There was an animated series that, believe it or not, was executive produced by Stan Lee himself. It lasted for 65 episodes and 3 seasons. There were toys, merchandise, video games, you name it. And of course, Nacelle is coming out with its own figures. They're up for pre-order right now. And they're making both 7-inch figures of the mice along with their bikes. Robo. This is good robots led by Max Steel versus evil robots. And I'm actually familiar with this because I was given one of these as a gift as a child. And so they are known for having suction cups on their bottom, which can stick to absolutely smooth surfaces like glass. And they also have arms that can crush their enemies that are activated by a button on the back. And each has a unique play feature, like mine has chest guns that you can see. And so Toyfinity did a line of these in the Goliath system with interchangeable parts, but that got discontinued. And so Nacelle has come out with new figures. Max is now Max 89 because, of course, Mattel has the trademark for Max Steel, but they are more Transformer inspired. They actually look like they would come right out of the live action movie, which is probably the point. And it's this reimagined version of RoboForce we'll see in the comics, and they will have the first miniseries after Nacelleverse #0. And their first issue hits in April. And so this is the main cover, and I'm going to show you the variant covers as I'm talking about the comics. So the miniseries are going to be 3 issues apiece, and so RoboForce goes first in April, followed by Biker Mice from Mars in July. Now, there are going to be miniseries for both Sectaurs and Power Lords. But the bad news I have on this is that the first issue for RoboForce, which is regular sized, is $4.99. It's at that $5 price point. That's becoming more and more common. At some point, all comic books will be $5 an issue. And I know that's a lot, but just keep in mind, these are only 3 issues a piece per miniseries, so it's not that big of a commitment. Along with comics, they're working on 6 episodes of animation for RoboForce, and it's going to be the first of several animated series of these properties. And RoboForce is actually executive produced by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and Biker Mice from Mars is actually going to be executive produced by Deadpool himself, Ryan Reynolds. So they're really trying to get the celebrities in there to help push this. They plan to do animation for all their properties, and you're going to notice that Cowboys of Moo Mesa is in here, but there's been nothing announced for them other than they are included in their Phase 1 plan for animation. It looks like each property gets 1 season of animation, and they're going to pitch these animated series to different streaming services and broadcast channels, and so we'll have to see where it ends up. And if this is successful, I wonder if it'll motivate other companies to use their 80s properties. Like, for instance, Marvel Legends recently came out with a Crystar figure that you can get right now. Wouldn't it be cool if they came out with more figures and reprinted the old comic series? Chicken Fried Toys is bringing back Cops and Crooks, and the first figure and that series is up for pre-order right now on their website. And they've got a Wave 1 in the works that's going to have Long Arm and Berserko and Buttons McBoom Boom. But imagine what would happen if they could do comics and animation. And there's a ton of other properties that are MIA. I'd love to see comics of the 2nd season of Captain Power that was never made, or a comic adaptation of the unproduced Wheeled Warriors movie, or reprints of the old 80s toy comics like Strawberry Shortcake. Do you know how expensive those issues are now? I hope that, if this is successful for Nacelle, they'll open the doors for other old properties to see the light of day again, because they certainly deserve it. All right, I'll definitely be doing a review of Nacelleverse 0 when it comes out in March. And by the way, the publisher is going to be Oni Press, and I'm looking forward to it. So like and subscribe for more videos. And until next time, see ya.